Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. My name is Dr. Zora and it's time for another tier list. In this video, we're going to break down every ultimate in Valorant and rank them from multiple tiers ranging from D tier to S tier. We also have an OP tier reserved for the very most powerful ultimates that are currently absolutely broken in the game. Ultimates play a very big role in Valorant, and having an ultimate available can make all the difference between winning and losing a round. With this tier list, you'll learn which ultimates are better than others, which can influence the agent you or your team may want to pick to complete your agent composition. Without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to start today's video with our question of the day: who is your main agent? We understand that many players are committed to their agents, and as such, an ultimate tier list such as this one may not be enough to sway you to playing something else. However, it's important to know where your agent stacks in multiple aspects of the game, and knowing how good your agent's ultimate is just part of the puzzle. Especially as you climb different ranks, this tier list will become more and more relatable and true. We're also curious on who's the most popular agent right now, so let us know who your main agent is in the comments below. We're going to work our way down from the bottom, and that means we're starting with the D tier ultimates. This is currently the worst ultimate in the game, and we unfortunately have to give that to Yoru's ultimate, Dimensional Drift. While this ultimate is getting a buff in the latest patch 2.06, it still remains one of the toughest ultimates to get use out of. Players initially thought Dimensional Drift would be a good ultimate to flank enemies, however this quickly was not the case due to the large sound cue that gives away your location. From there, it becomes more about gathering information and distracting enemies, which is nice and dandy until you realize you're stuck teleporting to your location, and if you get spotted by the enemies, you are in big trouble. For the latest buff, it takes less ultimate points to get the ultimate, and you can activate Gate Crash while in it, but this means you have to heavily rely on another ability to ensure that you don't get stuck in your own ultimate, which is still a bad sign. There's still a lot of fun and deception that can be done with Dimensional Drift, but they're just better ultimates and abilities that can do better. With that being said, we're going to get into the C tier agents, which we like to refer as the agent with okay ultimates per se. They aren't particularly bad, but they aren't especially good either. Our first C tier ultimate is Reyna's Empress. This may come as a surprise to some, as Reyna remains one of the biggest solo queue agents in the game. If you are an insane fragger, then Reyna has all the tools you need to get multi-kills, since she can constantly heal up and dismiss out. She particularly shines in the lower ranks and is an attractive agent to pick for Smurfs because of this. With all that being said, Reyna's ultimate seems really good, but there's a big catch. In the lower ranks and for Smurfs, her ultimate is great as it allows her to constantly heal up from fights, and the increased firing rate helps her win those duels. However, as you go higher and higher up the ranks, more experienced players actually find the increased firing rate as a negative. The increased firing rate forces you to have to pull down a recoil at a different pace, which tends to throw off the higher ranked players who are more used to the regular spray and control. This is the main reason we have to put Empress as C tier, as it gets crushed by the other agent ultimates at the highest level of Valorant. Continuing with the C tier, we have Omens from the Shadows. While Omen's been essentially the highest picked controller in the game at the moment, the reason for this is more because of his rechargeable smokes and paranoia. When considering just his ultimate, he's pretty mediocre. In order to use it effectively, you need to have a high level of teamwork and communication to get behind enemy lines. Otherwise, what ends up happening is Omen tries to use an ultimate and get behind, but if his teammates aren't pushing an area or causing a distraction, he's easily scouted out and picked off, which puts your team in a very bad situation. For the average player, the biggest play Omen's ultimate can do is rotating to plant a spike or scouting out where enemies are, which is pretty lackluster when looking at what other ultimates can do. Moving on, we have the B tier ultimates, which we consider to be good but not good enough to be great. And we're going to start things off with Viper. Viper has recently gained a huge buff to her abilities. While most of the changes were for her normal abilities, her ultimate has also gotten a massive change. Any enemies that cross into Viper's pit will now be inflicted with 50 decay right at contact. This makes it much easier for Viper to pick off players to enter the pit and makes players much more hesitant to just run into it. With the new buff, Viper has gotten much stronger, and her ultimate is now something to look forward to on her team, rather than an awkward cloud of smoke that you don't really want to enter and don't really know how to work with. Next up on the B tier, we have Skye's Seekers. This may also be unexpected, but Skye's ultimate actually serves a very useful purpose, and that is information seeking. Knowing where your enemies are is huge to choosing where you want to position yourself, and Seekers essentially tells you exactly where they are. It's similar to Cypher's, except you don't need a body to activate it. However, you do only get 3 Seekers, so you can't spot out an entire team, but most of the time you are using this ability mid-round where there are less players anyway. Players may be surprised that Seekers isn't lower on the list, since the Seekers can be easily shot, but its information gathering is what puts it higher. This, along with being able to use the Seekers as a distraction while you actually push at an enemy, is what brings this ultimate at B tier. We have one more ultimate at B tier, and that is Astra's Cosmic Divide. This ultimate is incredibly useful for blocking out information from enemies, and in the hands of a well-coordinated team, it can set you up for some amazing outplays and attack setups. However, this level of coordination is rarely seen in normal matchmaking, and when used inappropriately, it can actually be detrimental to your team, where enemies can push through your wall and get surprise kills onto you and your team. At the time of this video, we haven't seen Astra in professional play yet, where we may see these 200 IQ Astro Walls. However, the typical Astro Wall is much less effective, and it is why we are putting her ultimate at the B tier. We've now reached the A tier ultimates, and if you want to become an A tier or higher player, then go to skillcapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you everything you need to blast through the rankings in Valorant. The link will be provided in the description below. The A tier ultimates are considered great and incredibly viable on many team compositions. Our first A tier ultimate is Brimstone's Orbital Strike. Orbital Strike has been most commonly used on the attack side, where you can trigger it to stop defenders from defusing the spike. However, we've also seen it used often on both sides to clear out a specific choke point to narrow down the options that an enemy may be at. This usually ends up forcing the enemy to push out at you and get demolished, or they have to back up and you get control of that area. Orbital Strike is also very easy to use. There aren't any fancy tricks with it, which is why we put it at A tier. Next up, we have Cypher's Neural Theft. Like we mentioned with Skye, information is crucial in Valorant, and Cypher gives you exactly that by identifying where the enemies are positioned. This prevents the enemy from playing cheeky positions and also lets you know which site they're planning to hit or what positions they're defending at. This means there are no gimmicks or surprises that can occur in those few seconds after an ultimate, and you can play around that to come up with the best strategy. The one downside with Neural Theft is that it does require a body in order to activate, so you or your team have to get a pick. Sometimes the enemy body may be in a tricky position that you can't get to, which prevents Neural Theft from being higher up in the tier list. Nonetheless, when activated, it is very useful for determining your game plan for a round. Killjoy's Lockdown is our next ultimate on A tier. The amount of area denied to enemies with this ultimate is insane, and essentially allows your team free access to a site on attack, or can stall out a push for several seconds on defense. This level of control makes Lockdown so useful, but the downside is it can be shot down, so you have to be careful where you place it. Not only that, but several abilities can be used to destroy Lockdown as well. It's a similar situation where Lockdown is incredibly strong, but comes with downsides that prevent it from being an excellent ultimate. Breach's Rolling Thunder is going into the A tier and is highly underrated overall. That or Breach is just highly underpicked for whatever reason at the moment. Similar to Killjoy's Lockdown, Breach's ultimate takes a ton of map control, and rather than taking time to trigger, it takes over an area in increments, which gives players less time to react. If you're in a bad spot, you will get hit by Rolling Thunder and you will get killed. There's no way to counter Breach's ultimate other than knowing that it's up and trying to reposition before it gets triggered. This puts Rolling Thunder above Lockdown. However, the amount of area that Rolling Thunder hits is significantly less. There are likely going to be gaps where enemies can escape from, and you'll likely have to clear those areas before you can get onto the enemies that were dazed by the ultimate. Lastly, on A tier, we have Phoenix's Run It Back. This is personally one of my favorite ultimates in the game, and it's an ultimate that essentially grants you an extra life to work off of. Trigger this ultimate and you can push like a madman and frag out knowing that you will still be fine afterwards. Run It Back not only allows you to push aggressively for duels, but it also forces enemies to back up, as they know it's a bad idea to actually fight Phoenix's ultimate since there is no benefit. This is why Run It Back is at the top of A tier. The only downside is Phoenix doesn't have abilities to help speed him up while in ultimate form, and he has to use the ultimate from a safe distance or he'll risk getting killed for free when the ult is done. With the right support from teammates, that isn't a big deal, but it can be tough to get that pick with the ultimate if it takes too long to find enemies. We're now at the S tier ultimates, and these ultimates are insanely useful in multiple situations and have very little downsides. The first on the S tier is Sova's Hunter's Fury. Sova's ultimate plays a similar role to Brimstone during post-plant situations where you can deny the defuse for multiple seconds. However, Sova is also able to grab picks with his ultimate with the help of his abilities, along with other agent abilities such as Cypher's Tripwire that can identify enemy locations and make them easy targets to hit with Hunter's Fury. One point to make is that you are vulnerable while in ult form. However, most of the time this isn't an issue, as you can back up into very safe positions since the ultimate can hit practically the entire map. You're either guaranteed a kill or at least one shot hit for free, and with so little cons to it, we're placing Hunter's Fury at S tier. Next on the S tier list is Sage's Resurrection. There isn't too much to say about this. Being able to have an extra life available is just so useful in a game like Valorant. This opens up the options your team has to go for aggressive plays without getting punished for it, or you can swing the tide of a round where you can even the odds or have an extra man available that drastically increases your odds of winning the round. If you have abilities available or additional players, it's fairly easy to defend the player while they're being revived. The only downside is if a player pushes too far and gets killed too deep into enemy lines, then they're going to be much more difficult to revive safely. However, when the resurrection is successful, it can be a big game changer to a round. Last but not least, we have the OP tier of ultimates. This includes the ultimates that are absolutely insane. They bring so much value for very little cost and can absolutely turn the tide of rounds that seemed impossible to win. First up is Jett's Bladestorm. This is essentially a free rifle that you can utilize when the economy is going low, but can also be used along with your rifles. The ability to have a high dealing ultimate that is accurate while moving and flying around in the air makes Jett such a tough target to hit. They have to stand still to try to shoot you while you're jumping all all over the place and hitting knives. Not only is Bladestorm a free and better rifle that you can use, but it can also help you save on your economy and allow you to either buy for your teammate or save for an operator at a subsequent round. The high kill potential and money management that Bladestorm allows is why we're placing it in the OP tier. It's such a good ultimate, and it's no question that this helps make Jett as popular as she currently is. Getting into our second agent at the top of the OP tier list and tier list overall, you guessed it, it's Raze's Showstomper. You've probably heard it multiple times before, but having an ultimate that essentially gives you a free kill is insane. It's been arguably the most fun but also most hated ultimate in the game, as there isn't much skill or aim required to get a kill with it. This in and of itself already puts it in the OP tier. At the higher levels of Valorant though, you can also pull out insane satchel plays to help you close the gap between you and the enemy while making yourself a very slippery target to hit. By learning these plays, you're able to zoom through the map and have a high chance of finding an enemy to target your Showstomper on. And when you find an enemy, they are done for. It's just so overpowered when considering this. Showstomper is easy to use, gets you free kills with little effort, but also has the potential to be even better by learning how to use the rest of Raze's kit that doesn't even allow enemies to run away from it. With all these factors, there's no other ultimate that comes even close to being as good as Raze's Showstomper right now. Alright, so let us know in the comment section below on who your main agent is in Valorant, and while you're down there, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next. I'm Dr. Zora, and good luck out there.